The BLOB by David Schechter of Monstrous Movie music, and accepting for the BLOB is Bob Burns, who has accepted for the BLOB before.
You doing all right? Give me the award. Anyway, well, Dave and Katie Schechter are two of my best friends in the world. They put out the music that we all love that we thought we'd never hear in our lives. Now, I might get kind of emotional here because I have to read this. I can't get through it otherwise. So let me just start here. Of all the honors I've had in my storied life, nothing means more to me than having the opportunity of accepting the Rondo Award for Monstrous Movie Music's David Schechter and wife Kathleen May, whose BLOB and Other Creepy Sounds was the winner of the CD this year. And in case you can't tell, I'm reading a speech written by David Schechter. There's where it goes bad. Because if I were just winging this on my own, I wouldn't have mentioned him at all, and that's the truth. All I would have focused on was his charming wife, Katie, who is the real brains behind the talent of the soundtrack label anyway. But since Schechter paid me a goodly sum for doing this, I gotta continue, because I ain't giving it back. I was with David and Katie at the very beginning of their label's formation, and they requested my expertise, oh God, on what music to release. And I told them they must record Paul Dunlap's score for Frankenstein 1970. David listened to my reasoning and then chose to record them and the Beast from 20,000 Fathoms instead. When David and Katie were making plans for their next release and again solicited my advice, I suggested they record Paul Dunlap's score for Frankenstein 1970. Upon hearing that, David set fire to the Mole People's cereal monogram I had in my possession in my museum, which I no longer have. Well, then I suggested they release the previously unrecorded music for The Creature from the Black Lagoon. Because of the film's cult status and the brilliant score by legendary heavyweights like Irving Stein and Henry Mancini and Hans Zolder, of course, and the fact that The Creature is the only classic monster from the 1950s, I knew this would literally guarantee it would be the best-selling Monstrous Movie music CD of all time, and possibly the best-selling soundtrack of all time. This time, David did listen to me, and he actually put out The Creature from the Black Lagoon and Other Jungle Pictures. Well, I personally think that it turned out to be, unfortunately, the worst-selling CD in history. But I personally think the reason it didn't was because they didn't include any of Frankenstein 1870. As the opening scene in Frankenstein 1870, as we all know, there are a few trees and some vines, so it could qualify as a jungle picture, I think. Instead, Mr. Schechter chose to include music from some Tarzan movies or something on the CD. Now, what kind of jungle movies? Tarzan movies, for crying out loud. I won't even do that. Well, so when Monstrous Movie Music began preparing their next 4 releases, David did not solicit my advice. Instead, I was forced to slide my entire collection of Frankenstein 1970 lobby cards under his front door in the hopes it would serve as an inspiration to him. I'm not giving up on this, that's all. David did not return any of my phone calls and chose not to record Frankenstein 1970 or any of the upcoming and any of his CDs. And he did not return any of my lobby cards either. Oh, I take it back. I got one back, and that's only because I was the winning bidder on David's eBay site that he had the card on. These are friends now. Now, when David asked me if I would accept the Rondo Award tonight for the Monstrous Movie Music collection of the BLOB and Other Creepy Sounds, it was much delight that I accepted the honor. Now, that's true. And I'm proud to be bringing back the Rondo to Southern California because now I have something to bargain with when I try to get the rest of my lobby cards back. And I'm still hoping he'll record, otherwise he doesn't get this damn thing. I'm sorry. Now, I'm going to skip over the next few parts in this speech that he wrote because he was basically taking a whole lot of cheap shots at me. And I'm just going to skip these next 3 paragraphs and just go right to where he says, David thanks Ralph Carmichael for writing the amazing score to the BLOB because without his music, nobody would care about the CD. Well, they would if it had Frankenstein. Well, anyway. And the same goes for the outstanding composers whose work are featured on the release. Finally, David and Kathleen wanted me to say, and this is very true, this is no joke here, They are so very honored to be bestowed the Rondo Award this year, and they sincerely thank David Colton, everyone else who makes this incredible event possible each and every year, growing faster than Reptilicus on steroids. That wasn't my line. And David and Katie also want to give a special thank you to Rondo Hatton himself, because they want to adorn their house with his undeniable festive visage. And I'd like to add, well, personally add, whether or not this is really going to happen is if I get my lobby cards back. So right now, I accept this for David and Katie, but it'll probably end up on my show. If I don't get my lobby cards back. Thank you.
For those who don't know, Frankenstein 1970 was released in 1958.
Yes, it was.
Okay.
Right.
But we all know that.
Yes, we do.
All right, well, it's going to get even schmaltzier now, so hold on.